What's up, DIY Queens? It's your design bestie, Cara Newhart, and this is Make Space.
Welcome back to Make Space. It's Cara, and today we're talking about offices. I just got back from Palm Springs, regretting all my life decisions to move to the East Coast because the weather was amazing. And I spoke at a conference to female entrepreneurs about how to optimize your office, not just so that it looks cute, but also so that it supports your best work. And I feel like there's so many aha moments, and I had such a good time that I'm going to talk about it on the podcast so you don't feel left out. If you want to freshen up your office for spring, or you just haven't really ever been intentional about kind of creating an office that you feel like actually supports you, now could be your day. So here's the thing. Working from home for many of us started out as kind of like a necessity, like one day we were in an office and the next day we were not. And so we just had to set up sort of like a makeshift workspace and figure out how to work from our houses. And so then obviously 4 years later, these spaces have evolved, hopefully, to fit our needs and changed. But I was actually super surprised to find how many people that work from home haven't actually sat down and taken the time to strategically think about their workspace and are just still feeling like they're cobbling it together, or it's kind of like a thrown together, like we have the essentials, we're making it work, but it's not like our dream office space. So let's talk about some strategies that you can use to help your office space support your work and also feel like a place you actually want to be. So when it comes to your office needing help, the two biggest reasons why people have not taken the time to focus on their office, give it a makeover. Number one, you don't know where to start. It can be really overwhelming. You can feel like, I can't rip apart my office because I have to work here. And so when am I going to find the time to actually make changes in my office? The only time I'm not working is a weekend or vacation, and I don't want to be working on my office then. So not knowing where to start, the answer to that, which we'll get to later, is just to do little things. You don't have to do a big, crazy makeover. And so that's the second thing, is that you can't find time to make it happen. So either way, this project might feel overwhelming because you don't know how to strategically think about it, or you can't find time to actually hands-on do it. So here's the deal though. Ensuring your office is a supportive work environment is going to help you do your best work. The thought and intention you put into your office space is really going to help you get so much more out of it and feel inspired and excited to be working in there. So in terms of designing your own office hands-on, when I see female entrepreneurs try to design their spaces themselves, it usually goes like this. Okay, so you get frustrated that your office isn't working. You get on Pinterest, you pin, you save some inspiration, find some spaces you like. You start buying things to match the photos of these inspiration pictures, and you plop them into your office. And then it doesn't really make a big difference. You feel maybe momentary happiness, but it doesn't feel like it actually has shifted the way you're working in your space or the overall vibe. And you may even feel frustrated that the space doesn't feel complete. So what you're missing here is three things usually. Number one, a cohesive vision. So that is thinking of the space as a whole, how everything is working together, as well as each element and how it's supporting you. Number two, your unique story or creative point of view. This is especially important in offices because work is inherently creative. You're being productive, you're producing something, you're creating something. And so you need a space that's going to inspire that creativity. Even if your work itself isn't inherently creative, like even if you're an accountant and you do spreadsheets, still it's the energy of producing and creating, and having a space that fuels that can go above and beyond to help you feel really well supported in your work and in your space. The other thing it might be missing is intentionally selecting design elements to support your unique style and work. So this is less about the big vision that we talked about in number one. This is more each individual item serving a purpose and helping your space really function well for what you specifically need. So that's kind of the main problem people face when they're doing their own office is not thinking of the whole picture and each design element strategically enough, and instead just doing kind of what we always talk about, where you're copying and pasting from inspiration photos or Pinterest because you're just kind of unsure where to start, what to do. Okay, the first shift that we need to make when it comes to rethinking our office spaces is we need to reframe how we approach our office. A lot of us are approaching this space as an after versus an environment. So a lot of times we take time to set specific goals for things like our fitness, our finances, and our business, but rarely do we put care and intention into setting goals for our home, and in this case, our office. And the interesting thing about this is all of those other things like fitness, finances, business, we are more easily able to conceptualize as a process. Like there's goals along the way, but then we set a new goal and we work towards it, and it's a process. Where when it comes to our homes, we tend to view them as stagnant, a stagnant space, or like an after, like when you think of a transformation, before and after. So we need to shift our mindset to adopt a mindset around our home being an environment. So our homes and offices aren't the set and staged afters that we see on HGTV. Basically, HGTV has done us so dirty because they have skipped an essential middle part of the process by showing us the before, this really beautiful after, and sort of truncating the middle of how we actually got there, which makes sense, right? Like you can't show 6 weeks of work in a 30-minute episode. And so there's parts they need to skip. They know what does well in terms of shots. It's a really horrifying before and it's a really beautiful after. But because of this, we don't really have the full scope of the process, and we never circle back to revisit spaces on HGTV shows. Like, it's not like they went back 10 years, 20 years, like checked in with these people over the course of their life to see how the space changed, which is like the accurate picture of what our homes really are. And so when we don't have that context, it can be so hard to really view our home as an environment and instead start thinking of it as like what it looks like and kind of this after. So the shift that I want to help you make is that our mental state influences our spaces. Like when you're mentally cluttered, you might not have time to be cleaning up. There might be dishes left in the sink, laundry undone, cleaning that needs done, clutter. And then our spaces then in return influence our mental state right back. So then when our space feels cluttered, dishes are undone, laundry is undone, things need cleaning, it can make us feel stressed out or not at ease. And so it's a give and take of internal and external, and there's an exchange there. And I always say to clients, you can look at your space to realize what's going on in your head most of the time. And so when you start viewing your physical space as kind of an extension of your mental health and your mental state, it can help you better understand what's going on, number one. Number two, when we change our spaces, it can actually influence our mindset. And number three, it's okay that if we're not in a good place in terms of our mental health, like we don't have capacity to take care of our spaces. And so this is something that it's like an ebb and flow. Some eras might be better than others. And some periods we might be better at having a strong routine, but this changes over time. It's not always going to be super consistent. So shifting our mindset to realize that creating a space that supports us is a journey. It's something where we're going to be always tweaking and changing things. And not every era is going to look the same. Not every season is going to look the same. Sometimes we'll be busier and traveling more and clutter will pile up. Sometimes we'll be at home and we'll have more time and we can take better care of our spaces. But make that shift, number one. And then shift number two, stop shaming yourself for not getting it right. It can be so easy in an era of social media to look around at beautiful spaces and wish your house looked like that. Not even in like a comparative, judgy, like making yourself sad kind of way, but even in like an inspirational way of just thinking like, wow, if I had that space, like think of how much better I could be. So it doesn't always have to be like negative or shaming, although for a lot of us it is when we sometimes see inspiration we feel like we can't live up to. But don't shame yourself for not getting it right, because number one, if you didn't go to design school, that's a really high standard to hold yourself to, thinking that you're going to create a beautiful, perfect space, especially on the first try, without a lot of evolution and tweaking. And number two, to make real and tangible changes, we have to be able to look at our frustrating office as nothing more than a space with unrealized potential. Like your office being a mess or not having what you need has nothing to do with you as a person. It has to do with the fact that it just needs more attention and it could just use a little more focus in making it better. So I want to help you identify problem areas when it comes to workspaces that don't work, because it can be overwhelming to look at a messy room or a room that you're frustrated by and really be able to diagnose what specifically isn't working. It can be just well, the whole thing's not working. But here's 4 things that could be going wrong in your workspace. Number 1, it can be not functional. So this is spaces with clutter, if you have a lack of storage, or you're missing essential elements for your work. So when we talk about function, which we talk about a lot on the show, it's physical characteristics of the space that are going to support your everyday routine and activities. So examples of this are furniture layouts, floor plans, storage, like bookshelves and baskets. So they're items that serve a purpose or a function and are actually helping you do your everyday routine and the things that you want to do in the space. So if things are cluttered or not working well, it could be because you haven't strategically thought about function and the logic of the space. So if things look messy, it might be function. Okay, the second thing that could be going wrong is that your space is just uninspired. It's essentially a space with no unique creative point of view. So this is kind of what we talked about earlier, where when you're working, you're creating something. And if your space doesn't feed that creativity or inspire that, it can be very hard to be productive. And so if your space doesn't inspire your best work, it's going to be hard to create your best work in that space. This reminds me of when I was in college. I could never study at the library basement. All my friends always wanted to go study in the basement at the library. And it was just so ugly and it smelled weird and the lighting was horrible. And I just could never study there because I couldn't focus because the space was so uninspiring. And so look at your space to see if there's any examples of that. Is the lighting, do you not have enough natural light? Is the paint color really bothering you? Does it not smell great? What about your space is distracting or uninspiring that may have nothing to do with organization or clutter, but where when you just sit in there, you don't feel excited to be doing work in there? The next thing, you might not have enough structure. So you could have the most beautiful office that you feel inspired by, and it's organized, and it still could be not helping you do your best work. And this is more around boundaries from working from home than it is the physical space. But basically, if your office has a lack of separation from common areas, let's say your desk is in your bedroom, or it's in the front room, but there's not a door that you can close, or you're working from the kitchen table. Those lack of boundaries can make it really hard to transition between feeling like you're at home and feeling like you're at work. And when those lines are blurred, it can really be hard on your mental health because you feel like you're existing in one space or one environment all day. And I think we need change to be able to step away from our work and have time to relax. It can also be no clear work schedule. If you're like me and you're time blind and you don't really like schedules, that can be something that can help you feel like you have more boundaries around your work. For me personally, I work in my front room in my office, in the sunroom. That is my office, I guess. And so I try not to use this space for anything other than work, besides occasionally spying on the neighbors and swinging in my swing and drinking coffee. I guess I do other things out here, but I guess I don't use like my bedroom for work. Like there's other spaces in my house that are designated like relaxation spaces or spaces for me that I will not be doing work in, just because it's hard for me to get in the mental frame of mind to transition back and forth. And I really like to use my physical rooms and physical spaces to help do that for me so that I can stay focused. Or for me, it's really a tendency to be working all the time and always thinking about work and my next project and what I'm doing. And so having actual physical boundaries around that, whether it's a door you can close or a schedule, can really be supportive. The next one, number 4, is your space just might feel stagnant. So this is kind of back to what we talked about earlier, where you're treating your space as an after. And so your space feels very stagnant. It feels like stuffy, like it needs a window open and to be cleared out. Basically, this is when you set up your workspace and then you don't touch anything for months or years. You just set it and forget it. And essentially, your workspaces should evolve and grow as you do. Whether this is because your actual work changes and you need different things, whether it's because you as a person are changing, whether it's because with the seasons, maybe you bring in plants in the winter to help you feel more grounded and balanced. Maybe it's practical elements like a walking pad or a coaster that's heated for hot coffee in the winter. Different seasons can have different needs too. So look at seasonally what changes you can make. Seasonally, according to you, like when you need things to feel fresh, what can you change? And as you change and grow, what are some things you can do in your office to help it feel like it's changing along with you and supporting your best work? This could also be really practical. Like if you're in a phase of your business where you're doing way more Zoom meetings, that office setup might look different than if you're in a phase where you're doing a lot more filming videos for social media. Like you might have photo lights, or you might have a different background, or you might have things arranged differently. So look at like the actual work you're doing and what this season is about, and then what physical changes can you make in your space, even if it's little, like rearranging your bookshelves or adding a new chair or having a throw blanket, to support that. So it's also important when we're doing our own design to think about holistic design. So holistic design is when we're designing for our whole self. We're not designing just for how things look or just for how it works, but we're looking at like us as a person, as a living, breathing, changing person, and how can the design support us? So this is like balancing mental and physical well-being in our space. This is balancing function and aesthetics. How does it look? How does it feel? How does it work? And it's also leaving room for growth and change. So our space isn't stagnant and it's evolving. So a practical way to design a holistic space is to engage all of the senses with your eyes, like good lighting and art, on plants, with smells. You could do an oil diffuser, a candle lamp. Sound, you could have good speakers or headphones for music or podcasts. Taste, handy snacks and drinks. And then touch, furniture elements that feel good to you, or stress balls, or cozy blankets, or things along those lines. So look at your space and go through each of your senses and identify whether you have something in the room that's supporting that sense, because that's going to help you feel more at home and more like grounded in your space. So the couple things that play directly into holistic design. Number 1 is balancing function and aesthetics. So we have talked about this in a lot of episodes about how function and aesthetics is a spectrum, with function being more like the right side of your brain or the left side, whichever one is like logical and math and structure oriented. So function is just ensuring you have clear expectations for your space and the elements are in place to support the work and routine that you're engaging in on a daily basis. So this is how does it work? And then aesthetics is the other side of your brain, like the artsy, fun, rainbow, colorful, creative side. It is leveraging design elements to create a unique, creative point of view or tell a story through the space so that each space reflects the story of the people who live and work there. So this is your style, this is the colors, this is how, function-wise you need a basket, but aesthetics-wise, like what color and what shape and what texture are you choosing? And so these things work together to create balance in the space, and you need both, I would say, in equal measure. The other big thing with holistic design is balancing your mental wellness with your physical wellness. So when it comes to mental wellness, we're looking for design elements that support your mental health. So examples here are really good organization, really well-designed lighting so that you don't get a headache and you can focus on your task. Spaces that facilitate connectedness. So if you work from home and you're alone a lot, then you need to have a space where you can feel connected to people, whether that is taking breaks from your space to go get physical human interaction, or whether it is setting up your space where you can have a Zoom call or you can have phone calls and feel connected to people so that you're not alone. So there's a lot more that goes into that, but thinking of elements that support your mental health in your space. And then also your physical wellness. So these are design elements that support your physical health. Examples of these are plants for good air quality, a walking pad so you can get your steps in, healthy snacks and drinks. And this is especially important if a lot of your work requires like sitting at a computer, that you are making space in your office for both of these things, that you're not just expecting yourself to do work and be productive, but that you're supporting yourself with healthy inputs mentally and physically so you can do your best work. When we consider all of these things and try to balance them while we're designing our office, we're thinking holistically and we're creating a space that supports our whole self, which is then in turn going to help us do our best work. So I want to get really practical and give you 5 steps for a weekend office makeover. You can also do a smaller scale version of this and do it in just one day, or you could stretch it out if you want to give yourself like a real full office makeover and you have the time to dedicate to that. But either way, you're following these same 5 steps. So the first one, find the function. The second one, make a design plan. Step 3, delete and rework. Step 4, source and add. And step 5, tweak and touch up. So let's go through each of these and you can start to get an idea of how to tackle this in your space, whether it's just a quick day refresh, a weekend, or something more. So for the first step, you want to find the function. We talk about this a lot, but this is how I start out designing every space, and that is to sit down in the room and write down everything you actually do in the space in terms of activities and work. So for your office, this might be emails, it might be Zoom calls, it might be packaging and shipping orders. When we get really clear on what we're actually doing, this is going to help us set clear expectations for what we need from our space. The question to ask yourself in step 1 is, how do I need the space to support my everyday work? So you have to get really clear on what that work is, and also whether it's the same every day or not. Like, are there things that you're going to do once a week, and are there things you're doing every day? So maybe break it out by how frequently you're doing these activities. Once you have that, you can start to put together a design plan. And when I say design plan, a lot of people think like, we make a plan, we're going to do the plan, and that's going to be it. But that's not really the way to view it. So when I say design plan, it may be better to phrase it as like a design framework. It's just an idea of what we're going to do in the room, and this is going to change and evolve. We're going to circle back and edit and rework. And so this is just like your initial plan for the space. You're going to create this design plan by matching the design elements to the activities you listed. So examples of that to get tangible is baskets for storage. So storage is the activity that you need to do in the space. Baskets are the design element that is going to support that. You might need a big table for shipping and packaging your orders. You might need a desk for computer work. You might need a pretty backdrop for filming or for your Zoom meetings. And so once we start matching design elements to the activities, we can play with aesthetics as we find these essential elements and then express our style and the vibes we want for this space. So we know we need baskets, we can pick the color of the baskets, or we know we need a pretty background for our Zoom calls. Now we can start talking about what do the shelves look like? What are we going to put on them? And so starting to create this plan, but doing it from the actual work we're doing in the space, make sure that everything we need to do is supported by the design plan, by actual tangible things. So the question to ask yourself in this step is, how do I want my space to look and feel? And then that's going to help you pick the paint colors and all of those things. For a lot of entrepreneurs, if you have your own brand, my pro tip is to use your branding colors to guide your office decor. So this is going to take the guesswork out of it and help you create a space that's film ready for video content or Zoom calls. I know a lot of people that are entrepreneurs or with a personal brand spend a lot of money on amazing graphic designers to have branding done with colors and fonts and logos and a vibe. And so you can actually just use this same branding as your springboard for your office design, and then it's already done for you. And you don't have to have guesswork of what color to pick. Okay, step number 3. So initially people would think, okay, we have a plan, time to go buy the baskets. Not yet. So we talked about this before, but basically our culture likes to use additive cognitive bias when it comes to problem solving. That basically means our go-to default answer to solving a problem in our culture is to add something. And so really what we normally need to be doing if there's a problem is first asking ourselves, what can we remove? What is not working that we can take away? We do this when we do demo, like rip out cabinets or rip out a wall. We first need to delete and rework before we even think of adding anything new. We're going to basically edit our space. So we need to either, number 1, remove what's not working, like clutter, uninspired pieces, old things that just don't belong in the room or are not working. And number 2, then we can start to rework what we have. So we can paint things, we can rearrange furniture, you can shop your home and steal things from other rooms. Examples of this is clearing out paperwork, clearing out unfinished ideas or projects that we've started and haven't completed. We can clean up cords and conceal them with cord ties. So this is like the clearing out era. And it might include some demo in your office if you're actually doing a big project, or it might just include like getting things out that don't need to be in there anymore. The question to ask yourself in this step is, what do I need to change in this space to achieve the function, look, and feel that will support my best work? And change, you can also say, what do I need to delete or rework? Okay, now we can do the fun part, which is step number 4, where we're going to source and add. So now that we have a clear plan that supports our actual work and we've removed what's not working, we can start adding things back in. So we can go shopping, we can fill in the gaps in the plan with the elements that we need. So my tips here is to make a clear list of what you need. So that's going to be the actual items, like a desk, like storage, like a chair, alongside the measurements, like what size does it need to be to actually work in the space. You could also include inspo photos of what kind of style you want. And then you're going to take this with you when you grab your coffee and you head to Home Goods or your favorite store, so that you know exactly what you're looking for and you don't get distracted and end up buying something that you love in store but isn't actually going to work for the space. So in terms of sourcing and adding, if you're not sure what you could add to your office to make it better, here's just some examples. So you could add curtains, which would be functional for lighting and also soften the space. You could add a rug. You could add a floor lamp in a corner that's dark. You could add some plants for purifying the air and to help things feel more lively. You could add a piece of art that inspires you. You could add a bookshelf or a cabinet for some extra storage. You could get a new adjustable height desk so that you can stand and give yourself a break. You could invest in a new office chair. You could get a walking pad. You could get a coaster. You could get a new mouse pad or wrist support, kind of those ergonomic details that could help you physically do better work. So in this step, we're asking ourselves, what do I need to add to this space to achieve the function, look, and feel that will support my best work? And finally, step number 5 is a constant continual process, because your office is never done, but this is the phase of tweaking and touching up. So you added things, you set up your space to be fresh and new, but as you spend time working in your new office, be intentional about noticing what's working and what might still need some improvement. So this is where, number 1, we give ourselves grace that our design plan, we might not have thought of everything. And number 2, we give ourselves freedom and flexibility that even though we thought something might work, if we get in there hands-on and it's not working as we thought, we can change it. You can sell things on Marketplace. You can return things to the store. You can repaint a room. So change things if they're not working, or as you go, if your specific workload changes, if the areas of your business change, like you're going from writing a book, a lot of internal time, to now filming videos, and you have kind of different phases or eras, you might need to shift around your space, or also seasonally. So reflecting seasonal shifts in our work or in the weather and the seasons can also help us feel more in tune with nature and our creative cycle. So ask yourself in this step, what tiny tweaks could I make in my space to support me on an even deeper level? And this can be an ongoing process. The next steps for you is that let's rework your office so it supports you to do your best work. But don't just think about it. By the end of today, I want you to set a date in your calendar to tackle a 1-day office revamp or a weekend office makeover following those 5 steps. But actually take time, put a date in your calendar where you're going to focus on this and make it a priority, because otherwise it can be so hard to actually find the time to do it. And when you prioritize this, you're prioritizing yourself, and you're also investing in supporting yourself to do your best work. So whether you work a traditional job or whether you work for yourself, this is going to go above and beyond to help you have better work-life balance, feel more satisfied at work, and feel more in alignment. So those are my strategies for setting up an office that supports you. Let me know if you have questions. You can DM me on Instagram at NeverSkipBrunch. I would love to hear what you think, and I would love to see how you use these tips and strategies to rework your office. You should send me photos of what you do. At the conference, I had a bunch of people come up after and tell me different things they were going to do in their space, like paint a mural or get rid of the baskets they were emotionally attached to. And it was so fun to be able to say, send me photos, because then you can feel held accountable for tackling it. So if you need that, shoot me a DM and I will keep an eye on your progress. Until then, I will see you next week. So have a good week, go tackle your office, and talk later.
Thanks for listening. And if you've got more episodes to catch up on, binge on. Don't let me stop you. But if you've got a second, you should come say hi on Insta at MakeSpacePod. And if you're an overachiever, you can also leave a review and I'll love you forever. If you're new here, hit that follow button to officially become a DIY queen and join all the amazing humans tuning in every week.